What the heck is Formula One?
Pole position, strategy,
yachts and parties,
safety car, Ferrari.
beautiful corners.
Oh, right, okay. There's a car in front of you. Try and overtake it.
Oh, I hate you so much. Hello, you fools. Welcome to the podcast where we hope to enhance your F1 knowledge and help you graduate from fool to expert. The podcast is called Formula Fools. I usually say that bit in there as well.
That makes sense.
It's the Formula Fools podcast. Speaking of expert, I am David, your self-appointed expert, and with me is Skin, who is the self-appointed fool on this podcast.
Yes, that is correct.
I'm an expert in podcasting. Every week I get the intro spot on. From pit lane antics to racing riddles, we're here to make you laugh and question your sanity. Sit back, buckle up. It's time for Formula Fools.
You're in a good routine with that bit.
That bit, that's been there since day one.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
Is that the difference?
Chad wrote that.
Right. You need a few more.
I need a few more.
Another 6 months or so on the first bit.
I feel like the first bit isn't the best, so that'll probably change soon.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm not enjoying it.
All right.
So,
Hey, my ears are perked up.
oh,
Ready for a new change.
glad you said ears, Skin. Well, speaking of ears being perked up, we've got Hot Lap Recap for you, which I know you love the intro on.
Oh,
The
yeah.
race is over. It's that time in the show for the hot lap recap. Let's go, 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 go. All right, fools, time for your hot lap recap from the Spanish Grand Prix, where McLaren painted Barcelona papaya orange and Max Verstappen's Sunday drive turned into a demolition derby in the closing laps. Let's start at the top, shall we? Oscar Piastri, cool as you like, took his fifth win of the season and led home a McLaren 1-2 with Lando Norris following him across the line. It was textbook stuff from the Aussie, wasn't it? Pole position, nailed the start and managed the chaos behind like he was on a Sunday stroll down Las Ramblas. Norris lost out to Verstappen at turn 1 after a sluggish getaway, but soon got his elbows out and reclaimed second and kept the pressure on his teammate for most of the race. But the real fireworks were courtesy of our friend Max Verstappen, who was on a 3-stop strategy and looked set for a solid podium. Then, with 20 laps to go, Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes decided it had seen enough of the Spanish sun and parked up, triggering a late safety car. Cue the pit lane scramble. McLaren's and most of the front runners bolted on softs, but Red Bull, running out of options, slapped a set of hard tyres on Verstappen's car. That's right, hard tyres with 5 laps to go and a pack of hungry rivals on softs all around him. What could possibly go wrong? As it turns out, everything. Verstappen's grip vanished faster than free paella at a fan zone. He had a massive wobble at the restart, got mugged by Charles Leclerc, and then entered into a series of increasingly desperate scraps with George Russell. First, Verstappen ran wide, defending from Russell, bit of a love tap, and then was told to give the place back. Then, just as Russell tried to pass, Max appeared to swerve back across after slowing down and then clattered into the side of the Mercedes. The stewards, they saw it as undoubtedly being caused by the actions of Verstappen. Don't know if that's how they talk. It is in this pod. And handed him then a 10-second penalty, dropping him from 5th on the road down to 10th in the end results. Plus 3 penalty points, putting him only 1 race away from a race ban. Although that does reset, or some of them resets, after 2 more races. Russell, for his part, was left fuming on the radio. His vocabulary was briefly expanding in ways that we couldn't possibly repeat on a family podcast. But it's not a family podcast, is it? He said, fuck him. And even Leclerc had a brush with Verstappen, the two banging wheels on the main straight after the restart. However, the stewards did chalk that one up to just being a racing incident. And behind the drama, Leclerc snuck onto the podium for Ferrari, admitting that he got lucky with the safety car, but still isn't feeling that confident about regular podiums unless Maranello finds some upgrades soon. Russell took fourth, while Nico Hulkenberg delivered a blinder for Sauber. That's definitely worth talking about, lads. First points, cracking result. And Lewis Hamilton late on got fifth. Hamilton, by the way, had a miserable afternoon in his Ferrari, radioing in that he had no idea why it was so bad, but later revealed that there was some sort of mysterious technical issue. I don't know if you guys have found out what that was yet. Now, further back, Isaac Hadjar continued his good run, 7th place for Racing Bulls. Pierre Gasly grabbed 8th for Alpine, and Fernando Alonso, yes, finally scored his first points of the season for Aston Martin in 9th, after an early trip through the gravel that probably had Lawrence Stroll reaching for the antacids. We'll not talk about Williams this time, just for a change. So, to sum up, Piastri's now got a 10-point cushion over Norris in the championship, with Verstappen a whopping 49 points adrift and 1 penalty point away from a forced holiday. McLaren is the team to beat. Verstappen is playing with fire, and Russell's probably still looking for a stress ball somewhere. Barcelona delivered the drama, even if it took 61 laps to get there. Next up, I think it's Canada, isn't it? Where Verstappen will be driving on eggshells, and the rest of the grid will be hoping for a little less carnage and a lot more racing. There you go. That's your hot lap recap. I'm Ryan, reminding you that in F1, as in spicy Spanish cuisine, sometimes the heat comes late, but when it does, you better be ready for the fireworks. And the milk. See you later.
Good. You know the best bit about that hot lap recap? We're just going to skip Williams. So let's follow that on into our pod as well. Let's just skip Williams for this week. Let's pretend I'm not wearing a Williams t-shirt.
Really?
No Williams chat.
Really?
We just don't, you know what? We don't need to.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you'd still have something positive to say about them.
I mean, James, Carlos and Alex and all the rest of the boys and girls that work for Williams are just beautiful human beings with the best intentions in the world.
Okay.
We sucked at racing in Spain, but apart from that...
Yeah, apart from that.
Yeah, I think the less said about Williams, the better. They just didn't have the car all weekend, and yeah, just shit in the race. Like, we just got bad luck in the race. Well, like with the crashes. Yep. I mean, one of them was definitely Alex's fault. Did you see how he got a penalty?
Yeah. I did have a question about Williams after that whole drama.
Yeah.
Well, so firstly, so Alex crashed. There were 2 crashes. He's come in the second time, and there was something he had. So he had to serve a penalty, so he had to go back out. He wasn't allowed to retire then. Otherwise,
the penalty either carries on or it becomes a grid penalty for the next race.
Right. Okay. So he had to go back out there.
Mm-hmm. So he had to
do 1 lap, and then he could retire.
Yeah.
What if he had a bigger issue with his car and he couldn't go back out there for 1 lap?
Then they're just gonna have to take that penalty.
Yeah. Okay. That sucks. And then so follow up question. If his car's in a state where he can go back out there for 1 more lap.
Yeah.
So he retired essentially just because he wasn't going to get any points. Is that Is that right? Like they had a fixable issue. It was a broken wing or something. They could have put another front wing on, or he could have just gone back out and kept driving with a shit front wing, but just felt like he wasn't going to get any points. Is that right? Exactly.
Yeah. There's a potential that he may have had some floor damage. I'm not 100%, but if he had floor damage, then that would have also been... It would have just been like, look, you're going to be way slower than everyone else. We may as well save the life on the power unit so that we're not putting extra Ks on it, and we may as well just, bench the car.
Okay, because then my next follow-up question was, if that's the case and the car was able to go out there and do some laps, could they not have done something useful? Like, could he not have just done what he did in Monaco and just slow everyone else down and give Carlos a chance of...
Yeah, Barcelona's a bit harder. They're actually overtaking parts on Barcelona. So even if you went out and tried that, it's like they would have to feed him out into the exact part to help Carlos out. And it's just not a strategy that would have worked well in Barcelona because people would have just overtaken him fairly easily.
Okay.
So not really. Like I think as soon as I saw him with that Liam Lawson little battle, as soon as I saw that happen, I was like, let's just retire this car. Like it was my first instinct as well. Like, we're not going to get anything from this race. Like, let's just save the engine. Let's just call it a day.
All right. Have you ever seen a strategy like that where someone's sort of been on the brink of retiring their car and essentially decided to just go out there and help their teammate? Does that happen?
2021, last race of the season, Checo went out and was like, I don't know, a lap, maybe 2 laps behind us. No, he can't have been. He must have been on the lead lap. I don't know. But he went back out to slow Lewis down. So he goes back out the pits and slows Lewis so Max can catch him. He must have been getting blue flags. I don't really know what the exact thing was. But yeah, he went back out the pits to slow Lewis down and then retired the car before the end of the race. So he went out, did his job. Okay. Max caught him back up. And then when Max passed both of them, or when Lewis passed Checo, and then Max went past, Checo basically pulled in the pits and just called it a day.
Righty that.
Yeah. So it has happened, and it's not common, but it's an option. But in Williams' case, even if we went out and did it, I don't think we would have even got a point. So
yeah, Carlos was
not great.
Quite far down as well.
Yeah, that's why we're just going to ignore the Williams situation.
Okay.
All weekend we saw Lewis just struggling. And he is looking very fed up in that Ferrari this weekend. Did you see all the things out of Monaco where Lewis, after the race, was driving around to the pits and the engineer said, oh, strap mode this or whatever. And then Lewis radios back, yeah, okay. And then it's all silent. And he goes, are you mad at me? And he gets no response from his engineer. His engineer just blanked him. So there's been all these rumors of Lewis and his engineer aren't getting along with each other and all this shit. And then to see Lewis is just just his demeanor all weekend was just so low. He just looked defeated. There's a shot of him in the weigh-in thing after the race and he just stood there with his helmet on, just staring at the screen. His body language is just so his shoulders are down and he's drooping his head, all of that kind of stuff. He doesn't look happy in the Ferrari.
No.
Which is great news.
Oh, Dave, you sinister bastard.
Yep, that's me.
Surely he went to Ferrari with more looking at 2026 though, didn't he?
Yeah, I reckon so.
And stuff. Surely.
Yeah, he has to. But I think Ferrari should be doing better this year based on how they did last year and the year before. And it is kind of a shock. And I think Charles is even shocked at how bad the car is this year. But I think it's because they're doing what Williams are. They're putting more of the wind tunnel time into developing next year's car, and their focus is for next year. And I think, I think Lewis is a smart person, and as much as I love to see him looking all depressed and everything, I'm also not stupid, and Ferrari could make a masterclass of a car next year and Lewis could fucking dominate it because he's a very good driver. So yeah, I will enjoy this for this season, and then next season I may not enjoy it as much.
Okay.
I wrote down Lando as a guru. I meant to put Oscar as a guru.
Yep.
I'm very tired today, so I wrote the wrong name.
Good, yeah. I mean, Lando's the second.
He's doing great.
The second best of the weekend, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing a phenomenal job, but Oscar's doing a better one.
Yep.
I think Ryan touched upon it there. The start of that race was just clinical from Oscar. He had a great start. Lando got a little bit caught up in the battles with Max and was it George at the very beginning? So they had a bit of a tangle, but yeah, Lando came out on top in the end, and McLaren's pace was just unreal. So everything I mentioned last week with hey, we've got a technical rule change coming up in Formula One with the flexi wings, so McLaren might not be as fast. Wrong. McLaren are just as fast. Everyone else maybe even a little bit slower.
Yeah, that didn't seem to make much difference to
No, it didn't affect anyone apart from it didn't affect McLaren. It affected everyone else by the looks. Red Bull certainly looked slower. So they've kind of shot themselves in the foot there because they were the one lobbying for it the most. Yeah.
Okay.
So good from Red Bull.
All right. A few other questions I had about the race disc. Firstly, Stroll didn't race.
Yep.
Why did no one race for Aston Martin? Surely they've got a backup driver or someone who could have just sat in that seat for the weekend. No?
Yep. They've got Felipe Drugovich, and I'm pretty sure Valtteri Bottas is Mercedes, Aston, and McLaren reserve.
What?
Because he's a Mercedes driver, and all of them have the Mercedes engine, and so he will go to every race with Mercedes.
Yeah.
So at Canada, for example, Felipe Drugovich should be driving the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So if Stroll can't race, I think Felipe has already said, if Stroll can't race, I will race in F1. And so he'll just ditch his 24-hour Le Mans seat, which it seems ridiculous to me. I'd rather race in 24-hour Le Mans than in that Aston Martin. But yeah, but let's just say that something like this happened and he was already competing in 24-hour Le Mans, couldn't get to Canada in time or whatever, then Bottas would be able to jump in. So the reason they can't just replace the driver post-qualifying is because if Felipe was there or Valtteri was there and they jumped in the car, they have done 0 laps around the track. So they don't have any experience on that car, that track combination for this weekend with the tyres and the conditions and everything like that. So what they're basically doing is they're putting the other 19 drivers at risk because you've now got a variable coming in with 0 experience from this weekend. And it's just kind of a safety risk. And also, once qualifying is done, free practice is different, but once qualifying is done, the cars are entered into Parc Ferme, so they technically can't be touched. So the numbers on the cars can't be changed for the new driver's numbers and things like that. And there's a rule that says after qualifying, you can't change your driver lineup of who will race.
Right.
So there's a few things that go into play.
Right. So if Stroll had pulled out after free practice, it would have been fine.
Yeah, and we've had that before where people have been, like with Carlos with his appendix. Was it Carlos or Alex? One of them, because they both had their appendix out within like a year, and one of them did the free practice 1 or 2, and then was like, I can't do this. I need to go and have surgery. So then the reserve driver stepped in and took over from that. So if it was Carlos, it would have been Ollie, and if it was Alex, don't know who it was that stepped in. Can't remember.
Okay. Do you know what Stroll's problem was? Like, surely knowing that rule, you would, like, if there was any doubt before qualifying, you would not qualify.
Well, this is the really strange thing is before the 2023 season, it was right before preseason testing or between preseason and the first race, he had a cycling injury where a car hit him off his bike and he like broke his wrist, like shattered his wrist and all this shit. So I think it was genuinely like 3 weeks before the start of the season. They operated on his wrist, put these like metal splints in and stuff and screwed them into his bone and all that. He went through this crazy recovery program with this like all these like, you know, them chamber things you sit in. It's supposed to help heal. Like when we went to that place down the road for all the recovery stuff with the marathon last year.
I know my recovery disc. Don't you worry.
I mean, obviously we're just athletes over here.
Always training.
Yeah. So like he was in a lot of that. He was in a lot of physio, and within 3 weeks he was back at the track racing. And everyone was like, that is an insanely quick recovery. Apparently it's something to do with that. So he's got there's a problem with his wrist again, and he's had to go for another procedure. Like that's why he dropped out of the race.
Right. Okay.
He's been struggling with it for apparently like 6 to 8 weeks. So like you would have known the night before, I'm in a bit of strife here. Maybe I just don't qualify so we can have 2 cars in the race.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, can't win them all.
Well, I mean, Aston Martin weren't going to win it, but they
probably could have won an extra couple points.
Yeah. Fernando did all right.
Yeah.
Fernando did all right. Max got a penalty.
Yeah.
Max got a penalty. Shall we talk about that? Well, you had a question about Alonso. We just mentioned Aston and Alonso. So do you want to go for that?
Yeah, I've got millions of things to talk about. But yeah, I mean, Alonso, he did do all right. He was quite aggressive at the start. He was having a good crack. So was Lawson. Lawson was just driving into people. That's ended up flying massively under the radar because Max literally drove into someone.
Yeah. But it's funny because we got in on Monday and Mikas was in the office and he goes, how weird is it that Lawson's doing better than Yuki Tsunoda? And I was like, you've not watched the latest race, have you? And he was like, no. And I was like, yeah, well, that checks out. He drove into everyone at the weekend. Yeah, Lawson had a very weird race. Just didn't look like he knew what he was doing. It was bizarre.
Yep, that was bizarre. And then after all of that aggressive stuff at the start, Alonso just drove straight into the gravel, which was also quite bizarre. Yeah. There was like no pressure on him at all.
Zero pressure. I think his tires were just cooked and he was pushing a bit too hard, and that Aston just doesn't look stable. So I think he just lost it a little bit and had to carry the momentum. And because this is the thing, if you're going to go into gravel like that, and what he did really well was he felt that his brakes were going to lock or whatever. So he came off the brakes and rolled it into the gravel to keep the momentum going so he could get out the gravel. If he had tried to get off the brakes and turn aggressively into the corner or stay on the brake or whatever, and had slid into the gravel, he would most likely have buried himself. So he's actually I know it looked bad, but what he did saved his position on track.
Mm-hmm. Now do you want to talk about Max?
Now do you want to talk about Max? Let's talk about Max. Okay.
So he drove into someone.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
He's a bit of a wiener, isn't he? Like, I really like the guy and I really like his style and how aggressive he is, but that was just a bit of a shit thing to do.
Okay.
Like, it's just dangerous for no reason. Like, this is the thing that annoys me the most is George did nothing wrong.
No.
It was his team he was mad at.
Yes.
But George just...
Would have been weird if his team was on the track though. He would have struggled to drive into them.
True. I would have rather heard him scream at his team and belittle them than watch him crashing to the side of George Russell. But yeah, it was odd.
It was.
I just didn't like it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I've got a couple of questions. So at the time, Nico Rosberg was commentating, and he was just straight away very like, that's got to be a black flag. He just deliberately drove into someone.
I agree with that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think he should have been disqualified.
Okay, yeah. So the question was, why was it not that? Like, if that's only a 10-second penalty, what do you have to do to get black flagged?
Well, that's my point. Like, I was on the phone with my dad, and I'm like, I don't understand. Like, the guy has clearly done it on purpose. Like, you can see on his onboard that he just comes off the brakes and then just like turns into the guy. It's like, you have just caused a collision and put George's, maybe not his life at risk, but like, you've potentially knocked him out of the race because you're angry at your team. I think we should have shown him an example and given him fucking a black flag, disqualify him from the race, and then give him 4 penalty points, give him a disqualification for Canada. Like, really fucking...
That's a big old penalty.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Like, I don't care. Like, it's the same with Lewis. Like, when Lewis had won like his 4th, maybe 5th world championship, he just had this aura about him where he was like, he thought he was the big dick. And I feel like Max might be moving into that a bit now and just thinking that he's the fucking golden god. And it's just like, do you know what, mate? Like, you're you're probably the best driver on the grid right now, but just like, keep a level head. Like, it's your fucking team that made the mistake, not George. George didn't deserve that. And I just think he needs knocking down. I think he just needs knocking down a peg or two. And the FIA had the opportunity to do it. I think they were honestly scared of him. Because if they'd done it, he would have just fucking roasted them. And so I think they're genuinely just scared of him.
Okay.
Or I think if they black flagged him and given him 4 penalty points, there's a chance Max could just fucking, see in a bit, I'm off. And then it's just like, oh, we've just lost at the moment the biggest name in Formula One is Max Verstappen. Yeah, okay. So probably not the best from them to do that.
Yeah.
And if that did come in, then fuck politics, because that sucks.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so definitely not the best from Max. But then on the other hand, you can kind of see his perspective. Like, it's really not the best from his team either. Like, why would they have told him to give that spot back? What?
It's so bizarre because the FIA came out afterwards and were like they release like these documents that will say everything that gets investigated or noted, and they'll say what the official result was. And they already made the decision that there was not going to be any action on, I keep getting this wrong. Was it Max pushing George off, or was it George pushing Max off?
Max ended up going off.
Okay, so George pushed Max off. Okay. But like, yeah, they said there was going to be no further action on it. Oh yeah, because it was Max overtaking off the track, wasn't it?
Yeah, I guess that's like what I can. I assume that's why they told him to give the spot back, because he gained like a good whatever it was, like maybe half a second by going off the track.
But they just said,
but it was into that runoff area, which is Can you explain that to me as well? That runoff area?
Yeah,
like
we're going to get a few more of them from now as well in the season.
Oh, really? Okay.
Canada's got one on its penultimate. Like there's a chicane at the end of Canada, and there's one there that's kind of similar.
Does that count as going off the track, or are you allowed to?
Yeah, it does count as going off the track, but the reason, especially on lap 1, if you look at, I think it was Bortoleto went off the track and then made a weird left-hand swerve to then rejoin. It's because there's a bollard right on the edge of the track on the exit of the corner. So you kind of, if you look at it from above, you would have seen like the track going round to the right and then the left and then right. And there was then like a little slip road just past the curbs. So that slip road is, if you're going to go off the track, if you lose control of the car or whatever, you have to stay to the left of that bollard then within that white line. Because what they've determined is, if you're all the way out there, you're going to lose enough time doing that, and you're going to rejoin without gaining an advantage.
It did kind of seem like people gained an advantage, though. Like, Max and George touched, and then Max came back on the track a long way in front. Yeah. Okay.
I have no explanation, because if you also look at Fernando, Nico, and Bortoleto on the first lap, they all look like they gained quite a big advantage as well. I don't know if they then gave that advantage back, but yeah, they all look like they did as well.
So then, So then Red Bull are worried about that. Tell Max to give the spot back.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to like that very much.
He hated that.
And it just seemed like he he just sort of second guessed himself. Like he went to give it back and then he was like, no, fuck that.
Yeah, it was genuinely like he moved out the way. George was like, all right, cheers, mate. And then as George started to turn, Max went, do you know what? It's George. I'm just going to fucking hit him. Like, it was such a weird thought process from Max. I can't think of why he would do that. It just makes no sense to me.
Well, I think it would have just been, he only had like a fraction of a second to make each of those decisions and he was just angry.
Oh, nah. He had breaking into that, like going into that braking zone, you could see he was giving the position back. Like he moved far enough over to the left. He braked earlier.
Yeah,
and then he came off the brakes.
So he's like been told to give the position back. He doesn't want to. He decides to in like a fraction of a second and then realizes he's still angry about it.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. That's pretty much what it is.
Yes. The other interesting thing that came out of the race was as like Oscar, Max, Lando were all overtaking or lapping a lot of the back markers. Yes. There was that battle going on between Behrman and Lawson, I want to say.
Yep.
What? Like, was that all good? Was that fine? Because like, did Behrman and Lawson do anything wrong? Max was blowing up as he went past them.
Yeah.
And I'm under the impression generally if you're getting lapped, there's like a blue flag or something telling you to get out of the way. But obviously if you're in a battle, does that take precedence or what happens?
Blue flag is the overriding rule of everything. So yeah, if you're in a battle, you have to, and you see a blue flag, you've got 3 marshal bays. So I think it's just the screen ones. You know, when you see them driving around, you'll see marshal bays where they've just got the flags and then you'll see them where they've got the flag and the screen. I think it's the screen ones. I'm not 100%, but you've got 3 of them checkpoints from when you see your first blue flag to your last one. And then you could be like under investigation for a penalty. So the general consensus is get out the way before you hit that 3rd one. Mm-hmm. The problem that they had there and the reason Max was blowing up is I'm not sure if their engineers were telling them the correct stuff in their ears because they let Lando through. And then when Max came to go through, I think it was Behrman kind of like got in front of him. And I don't know if he saw that he was there. It wasn't that it was dangerous necessarily. I think Max like handled it pretty well, but if you're in the top 3 of the race, you're going to kick off if people aren't getting out of the way for blue flags. And so I think that was the only thing he did wrong, but it wasn't penalty worthy what he did.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'm still pretty confused. So if you're getting lapped, are you allowed to battle? Was a blue flag dropped?
Yeah, 100%.
So they shouldn't have been battling. They should have been letting people battle.
Well, it's not that you shouldn't battle, but it's more just like what they did was they waited until the cars, the front runners were on them and then they moved out the way.
Right.
That's totally fine to do. But the problem Max had was that Behrman didn't move out the way for Lando and him.
Okay.
He moved out the way for Lando and then kind of blocked Max a little bit. So that's more what the problem is. But yeah, as long as they're within them 3 checkpoints, they're okay to battle however they want. Generally though, in this kind of situation, if you're trying to make an overtake on someone, so you've got, let's say Behrman's in front. Who was it? Lawson?
Yep.
Behrman's in front. Lawson's behind him. Let's say you're Lawson in this situation and you see the blue flag. If I was Lawson, I would get out, I would brake earlier or move out the way earlier. And then I would follow in the slipstream or follow very fucking close to whatever the front runner is, Lando or Max, so that when the other car gets out of the way, Behrman gets out of the way, you can potentially just follow them through past Behrman and make a very easy overtake.
Okay.
That's a very common strategy with blue flags for back markers.
Okay.
But they didn't do that.
Okay. I see what you're saying. That reminds me of another question.
Go skin.
And I know this podcast is getting lengthy, Disc.
Oh.
Easy. I said podcast. And this could potentially go on another episode, but I'll ask it here just in case.
Yeah.
You said slipstream.
Mm-hmm.
You'd get in the cars in the slipstream of the car in front of you.
Yep.
And that sounded like a big talking point this weekend in particular. In qualifying, I think it was Lando did try to do something cheeky, like getting a little toe from Oscar before his quick lap, the start of his lap, and Oscar tried to slam on the brakes to make sure that didn't happen, sort of thing, as soon as he crossed the line.
Yeah.
What is the difference between getting a toe from someone, being in the slipstream of someone in front of you and getting a toe from them versus being behind someone and having dirty air coming off their car and it's slowing you down? Like why is it sometimes good? Why is it sometimes bad?
Yep. Great question. Usually a toe is down a straight only and dirty air is usually through the corners. So dirty air refers to all of the shit coming off the back of the car, all the air's being like swirled around and moving in different directions and all this crazy crap. that hit in the front of your car is not straight air hitting the front of your car. So that's going to cause a loss of downforce. So in corners, you don't want to lose downforce. So that's why generally being in someone's dirty air is bad through medium or high speed corners and sometimes in low speed corners as well, because you're going to lose the downforce you need to get through the corner. Whereas on a straight, you kind of want to ditch your downforce as much as possible and just have the air like hit over you, like just kind of like what, you know, like whatever, like cut through the air as much as possible. Usually a slipstream, you don't see slipstreams being like super useful down a straight unless you're within like a second, maybe a second and a half of someone and it's a long straight. So in Baku later in the year for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, that one has got, I think it's the longest straight in F1. And that is just phenomenal for slipstreaming. We will see a lot of slipstream strategies in qualifying for people to get faster laps, especially for teams like Williams and maybe Ferrari, like the kind of like mid-pack teams that want to try and challenge for a higher spot. We'll most likely see them try that in qualifying. But if you're going to, like for Lando in that situation, he would have been close enough to Oscar where Oscar's going to go at full speed until he hits the line. So even if that's, let's say just like 500 meters, that's 500 meters of a slightly higher top speed that Lando could hit because he's in the slipstream. If Oscar was to stay in front of him and then follow through that first corner, Lando would then get a washout of downforce. He'd have no downforce and he wouldn't grip the corner as well. And then he would lose time.
Gotcha.
In the race, we see it. You don't see it being a massive effect in the race as much, the loss of downforce, because we have higher fuels and people don't drive at full speed. So that's why, like, if you look at a qualifying lap and then race laps, they're usually like two to maybe 4 or 5 seconds slower per lap than what they'll do in qualifying. And so you can manage that more with that. And that also affects the lap times.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I believe I do.
We're now going to move on to driver of the day and biggest letdown. Skin. Yes. You go first because I'm just stealing your driver of the day.
Okay. Driver of the day, I think, pretty much has to go to Nico Hülkenberg, doesn't it?
Yep.
He started in 16th, then he ended up in 5th. I don't know what more you would want a driver to do.
No. Neither do I.
Yeah, I suppose you could qualify first and win the race, but there's always that little.
Okay, I don't know what you would want your driver to do if you are Kick Sauber.
Yes, yeah. Wonderful point.
You also had a question about Hulk finishing in 5th.
Yeah, well, just like how the hell did that happen? Because like watching the race, I guess you see all the drama with Max and there's lots of other shit going on. Lawson's driving into everyone and all this stuff's happening. I don't really remember watching him overtake anyone.
Yeah. Well, neither did I. So I had to go back and watch the highlights today and just like, I was like going through lap by lap to just see where did he make his overtakes. So I wrote it down here. So Beerman and Alex both got a bad start off the line. So he went from 16th to 14th there.
Lovely.
Stroll had already been disqualified or out of the race. So he's into 13th.
Okay.
Into turn 1, he gets pushed off the track because of some people hitting each other. So he had to like make avoiding action. And into the next turn, I think it was after that, he gets bought up, but he makes an overtake there because of them cars like hitting each other.
Yep.
So, or 2 overtakes. So he's then in P12.
Yeah, right. That little runoff area where you don't get any advantage.
You don't get any advantage.
To overtake 2 cars.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, right.
No, he only overtook 1, so he went from P13 to P12.
Okay.
Then into the next corner or next few turns, whatever, he overtakes Bortoletto to get P11. And then on lap 2, he overtook Fernando to get P10.
Wait, this is all lap 2?
That's within the first 2 laps. So he's 16th to 10th within 2 laps.
Holy Nico.
Yeah, so that's a phenomenal drive from Nico. He then does nothing, basically, apart from use his strategy through to lap 52, where he's then all of a sudden in P9.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just good strategy. Like I think they pitted him slightly earlier, so he undercutted Fernando or something like that. Kimi's car then blows up. That gives him P8.
Lovely.
He overtakes Hajar right before... No, that must have been right after the safety car. Can't remember. But he overtakes Hajar for P7. And then on lap 65, he overtakes Lewis. I think he was on fresher tyres than Lewis. So on lap 65, he overtook Lewis to get P6. Max then got his penalty, P5. Hell of a race for Nico Hülkenberg.
Yes. Yeah, quite good.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
So he was also my driver of the day.
Yeah, that's driver of the day if ever I've seen one.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, not the actual driver of the day.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
That's fucking crazy.
It's like the voting closed like just before Max drove into George.
Oh,
so I'm pretty sure Max got driver of the day.
No way.
I think so, yeah.
Holy shit. That hurts. If that's the case.
I'm pretty sure that was the case. He won driver of the day, then drove into George and came P10.
Spain driver of the day. Oh my gosh, he got driver of the day. Oh, that is the most disappointing thing I've ever seen. All everyone has done is slate Max Verstappen all week because of that accident, and he got everyone had voted for him for driver of the day.
I mean, in the first 65 laps, the bloke was bloody nearly faultless.
Yeah, that is very true. He had a great 65 laps. He had a shocking pit stop onto the mediums and then drove into the side of someone.
Yeah, they really closed that voting at a poor time.
They should close it 3 laps after the race.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Not entirely. I don't know why you'd still be driving 3 laps after the race.
Oh, skin. Just, you know what I'm saying. Biggest letdown. Who have you gone with?
I had the Red Bull strategy team, whoever told Max to put hard tyres on.
Yep.
And then whoever told Max to give the plays back to George, I think within about a lap and a half, they've completely fucked him. So
yeah, wasn't the best. Really wasn't the best. I went with Williams.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And that's all I've got to say about that. We may as well just move on because I don't want to talk about Williams sucking, but we sucked, and that's why they were my biggest letdown for the weekend. We just didn't have the car and everything I said earlier. Alex had a bit of a shocker with Liam. We broke 2 front wings and just left pointless. You know, Carlos Sainz he's always scored points in Spain up until this weekend.
Yeah, well, he's never been there with Williams.
But that, yeah, literally.
Doesn't Alex have the opposite problem where he just sucks at Spain? I don't think he's ever scored points. Yeah,
wasn't he like
something horrendous over like four out of the last 5 years or something?
Yeah. Hasn't he got worse? Wasn't it like P16, P17, P18, P19, and then DNF?
Yeah. I know what he's doing next year. Might pull out in qualifying.
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
Easy skin.
Okay, Dave.
Do a little lance.
Yep.
Have a little stroll away from the track.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't saying anything dirty there, Skin.
Okay.
I was. Next up, we have got the Canadian Grand Prix. Now, the Canadian Grand Prix is a very interesting Grand Prix. It probably won't be the best race. So again, watch qualifying. But it also could be a good race because one of the things I wrote on my list was unpredictable weather conditions at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. There is potential rain for qualifying. At the moment, I'm looking at one of them 10-day forecasts or them
literally doesn't count.
Never counts. But I'm looking ahead. It says there's potential rain for Saturday. And Sunday doesn't say there is rain, but it could be cloudy. So it's one of them tracks where sometimes the water can pool and it takes a very long time to dry. So it could be if it does rain on Saturday, it could be a very green track on Sunday. So it could be just difficult for grip levels. So keep an eye out for that next weekend.
Do they come out and paint it after it rains?
Yeah, that's what they do, Skin.
Right.
Yeah.
What the hell is a green track actually mean?
It just means that the rain has washed the rubber away. So it's a fresh track.
Gotcha.
So it's not as grippy. It's not as, you can't corner as fast. And
okay. That makes more sense.
The tires are going to degrade quicker. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. See, we learn things on this podcast.
That's the point of the podcast.
Oh, shit. Yeah, okay. Fuck. I always forget that. I wrote a couple of things for number 2 because I was like, I just want to throw these 2 together. Max could have a race ban after this weekend because he's a loose cannon at the moment and could crash into someone. So look out for that.
True. So what? He's got 1 point left until he's having a race off.
Ban, yeah.
I wonder how he feels about that. Surely after the last weekend where he hates his team, he'd be like, a weekend off.
Yeah. I
can get around that.
I can guarantee. I know Ryan said there's some coming up because they expire after 12 months.
Yeah.
So like if he got one last year in Canada, then by now, like this time last year, then by now it would have expired. I guarantee he's probably going to crash. He's going to do something to get a penalty point. Even if it's just like speeding the pit lane. He's going to do something to get a penalty point just so he has a weekend off. Like I've just got a feeling he's going to. The championship's slipping away now. I reckon he's going to just want a weekend at home with the newborn and just, chill. I also wrote, will Lance Stroll make it back to F1 for his home Grand Prix? Based on how he recovered from the injury before, it wouldn't surprise me. I think it would be fucking stupid if he has had another procedure, but that's kind of something to look out for. And we have the Wall of Champions in Canada. So the last corner in Canada is a right-left tight chicane. You've got a long back straight with the DRS zone. Speaking of which, Alex Albon actually made a phenomenal overtake there last year. Double overtake into the turn. It was chef's kiss, thing of beauty. Go check that one out.
Okay.
But the whole point of this wall is like the exit of the corner. So as you've gone right, left, and you've got a straight line, there's a just concrete wall right next to the track, like it's like a curb concrete wall. And they call it the Wall of Champions because most champions have crashed into that wall.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's weird.
Yeah. It's very common, like Lewis, Seb, Schumacher, Senna. I think most of the champions we've got or had have crashed into that wall.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we've got 2 potential people that are going to be new world champions this year. Is one of them going to crash into the wall?
Okay.
Like Lando, Oscar, which one's going to do it? My money's on Lando. I hope he's not a world champion this year, though.
All right.
But I think if someone's going to crash, it's going to be Lando.
Yeah, right. But, yeah, okay.
But if the curse is going to stay true, then I want it to be Oscar.
I see. Yeah, all right.
Just maybe not in the race, maybe in qualifying or somewhere else.
There.
So look out for the Wall of Champions. I'm sure they're going to do something on it. I'm sure Sky Sports are going to do something on it because we're most likely going to have a new world champion this year.
Yeah, true.
So I reckon they'll do a piece on it.
Okay. Exciting stuff.
Well, that wraps up another lap at the Formula Fools podcast. We hope you enjoyed the ride as much as we did. It is now your turn to join the Fools family by connecting with us on socials and becoming a fellow Fool. Facebook, we are at Formula Fools. Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, we are at Formula_Fools. I'm trying very, very hard to get our YouTube channel popping. We've had a couple of videos recently a couple of potty videos that have done pretty well. Mm-hmm. So if you want to see mine and Skin's beautiful faces whilst listening to the podcast, head over to YouTube, hit subscribe. It always helps out and you get to look at us every week.
True.
And Skin's a handsome chap.
Well, yeah, thanks. All right, I'll take it.
You will.
Cheers. Normally, I would ask for a rating or review on Apple or Spotify as well. But I think one piece of homework is plenty. Yeah. Head over to YouTube. Make sure you've subscribed there if you haven't already.
Yeah.
Also, the one video that you had pop off was like a review of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Which was random as hell. If anyone can explain why that suddenly
32 days after we posted it. Yeah.
That was really bizarre. So if anyone has an explanation for that, let us know.
Yeah. Did something happen? Oh.
What?
Is there one of them, like, you know how Saudi Arabia is doing all of these like experiences, like the F1 World, or like they're doing the WWE thing over there? Like, is there an F1 thing happening in Saudi? Maybe that's what we need to look into. Could be something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's
well, no, neither do I. I'm just throwing a suggestion out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you guys could tell us.
I'm asking for, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet. Glad I added that bit in. We'll keep it in because, you know, why not have a 45-minute podcast when I said this was going to be the quickest one we've ever done?
Exactly.
It just makes sense.
You said that before I wrote half of my questions.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you for joining us at Formula Fools, where every turn is a chance for a good laugh. We'll see you next time.
Bye.